This meeting is being live streamed and recorded to Council YouTube channel. The meeting will also be recorded for subject to recordings of suitable quality to be made available to view on YouTube. So first, can I start? Is there any extraordinary business that needs to be added to the agenda? Nope, good. Apologies. I make the apology for Councillor Aidan Elms. He's unfortunately called away on a business trip. Is there any other? Well, do I have a seconder for that?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Those in favour, raise your hand or say aye. Oh, God. Those against, the motion is carried. Any other apologies? I'll take that as a no. Does anybody have any conflicts of interest they need to make?
No.
I'll take that as a no. Do we have anybody that wants to make acknowledgements and tributes? Is this a discussion that's going to say that?
No, I would like to acknowledge the artwork that's been put into the Waihinga Centre, beautiful work. And so by Violet Edwards and Sam Ludden. So yeah, it's beautiful. We get so many comments about it, and we're very grateful to have received that gift.
Okay, thank you. Now we do have public participation.
Sorry,
Ashley's not here.
Ashley's not here. She's not coming.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so we will just park that for the time being. We're supposed to be hearing from Ashley Mills. So we'll park that for the time being. So we can't do anything with actions of public participation. So I'd now like to bring forward the Community Board minutes from the last meeting. Now, the point of this is we can only agree with the minutes unless there is corrections to be made.
Right.
So do I have a mover that the Martinborough Community Board meeting held on the 30th of November 2022 be confirmed as a true and accurate record? I trust everybody's read through it, so I understand that. So we've got a mover and a seconder.
Yep.
Okay. So that's done. You happy with that? Good. So I'm now going to move something forward. So I'm going to bring through the next item on the agenda was the Chief Exec reports and staff. So excuse me, staff, I'm sorry, but we're going to review the Chairman's report beforehand. Right.
Actions. Minutes.
I've been through the minutes. So I'm happy with what they are as a true recording.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just looking sometimes.
Okay.
Is there orders to move the chair reporter?
No, you can just move the order of things. That's fine. Yeah.
Yep.
What page is that?
28.
28.
So is everybody happy to go through the report? Let me talk to some of the things we didn't and what we put into this plan. But you'll see the recommendations. So you're going to receive the Chair's report. Considering actions from discussions on the Memorial Square development, I'll expand these a bit later. Request a workshop with the council on the clear understanding of the performance and management of the Payne Farm. I might get Karen to talk a bit more deep on that one. We're looking to set up a workshop to analyse the performance or not of the CCTV camera systems we've got here. I can add a bit more conversation on that. And then we've made a recommendation to the Infrastructure and Community Services Committee that the potential traffic calming measures for the Kitchener-Princess Street intersection be explored. Now that will take some further actions to do, but Pip, I think you've got some actions with Aidan from visiting down south. Do you have any comment to that?
No, that wasn't me. That was
sorry, mate.
No, that was
So let me just go through the first of all, the Memorial Square development plan. Now, this is the documents that we just discussed in these two here. So it would appear that we have to revisit the actual management plan. Now, as this was done with a consultant, are we the people to do the revision?
Sorry, what was the question?
The question is, this was done by a consultancy.
The Martinborough Square Management Plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we the people that can, it's 10 years old, can we review it? Can we change it? Can we modify it? Or what do we do?
It needs to.
I don't know if it's within the terms of reference of the community board to do that. Stefan, can you speak to that?
This is what we're talking about when you came in, Stefan. If you want to see it?
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair, and good evening to everyone. But my understanding of this is limited to a few conversations that I've had with my management team and with the mayor about, who ultimately reviews and finalises the. My understanding, and I may be wrong about this, is that ultimately it's the responsibility of council to review all of the management plan. I think the accountability lies with the council. Now, that's not to say that we couldn't engage a consultant to do it. That's not to say that we couldn't delegate large or parts of that responsibility to a community board or to a working group or another body. I don't think that that decision has been made. I'm fairly sure it hasn't, and is still the subject of discussion.
Okay. So I hear what you're saying. I would like to think that we could take it on in a workshop type arrangement where we could discuss with key people from council and the community board and any interested parties that may have influence to discuss whether we modify this or leave it as it is and resubmit it.
The things there have gone past us. They talk about the toilets and
Yeah.
there
It's all
now.
done.
So
But obviously it needs
it does need,
Updating.
yeah, updating.
but we need to probably do it in a formal manner. Is that what you're saying, Stephen? That we need to perhaps, if we're going to, we need to discuss what the formal process of changing is going to be before we go through and do any modifications to it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And whether you would be doing it all or in parts.
Yeah.
And what the scope of the review is.
And through you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So Stefan, can we, can I make a suggestion to perhaps if the staff could reach out to Pam Talenzo, who was councillor last term, who I believe was the chair of the Martinborough Community Board when this was done, because from who you've advised has been where you've been discussing it. No one's been there long enough to actually remember except Pam. And so Pam, I'm sure, would be more than willing to actually help discuss how that went. And I think it might be beneficial if she comes to talk to us
I
too.
would say so, yeah.
In the community board. So perhaps if we could send out something, an invitation for her to come and speak to us in regards to the plan at the next community board meeting as well.
It'd be really useful to know from Pam and anyone else who was involved in the process last time, how that process ran.
Yeah.
And whether they were delegated the authority or, all of that stuff.
What the expectations were and and the intent. Yeah.
I mean, quite frankly, the knowledge of most of this stuff resides in this sort of organisation, right? So, and the other thing is the reality is that we're a small council with very little capacity at the moment to review all of our OPs. So if the burden of that was lifted from us and you were able to take responsibility for all of it or part of it, in principle, I don't have any objections there, but it would be something that we'd need to discuss as a team, with management. Yeah.
Perfect.
So in summary, we should be forwarding that we would like to collectively meet with a special invited people
Pamela.
to review this plan and maybe make suggestions going forward to its update. Is that fair enough, Stephen?
I think we need to meet and talk about process by which.
Okay, all right, we can do that. Okay, so we'll park that.
Thank you.
You got that? Okay, so the second one was talking about the Memorial Square lighting plan and pedestrian crossings. Now, this has been submitted. Stephanie, you grasping this one as well or not?
I wrote that paper, that was submitted to council.
Okay, so
Before I went on holiday, and then I've heard that the outcome was good.
Yep.
It was a decision to go ahead with the recommended option.
Yep. So what we're looking for now is an update on the program of work. Where do we go?
So that's, that was what was requested of officers
Yeah.
by council, I believe by the 1st of March. So the next step is that officers provide a costed project plan, which will tell you exactly what's going to happen, when, and for how much.
Okay.
And so that's that'll be tabled before the 1st of March.
Can I just ask a question around that? Because is there a priority plan? So we're not going to do every pedestrian crossing in one hit. I take it there is a progress plan with priorities given to where we start, which was pointed out to be outside the square.
The sequence of work at the moment, the only sequence that's mentioned is that the pedestrian crossings in the square and the one that's attracted quite a lot of public attention down by the takeaway shop. Those will be done first from a different funding source. So,
But you're saying they're going to be done together, so being over a period.
I don't know.
Okay. That was a question I had. Okay.
They'll all be done,
Reasonably quick.
fairly quickly.
Okay. I just have a question that came out from the community since then, was to talk about the access onto the pedestrian crossings through the curb access points. Not being wide enough, and we've probably got a trial with our mayor running around in a mobility scooter just to see what the problems are, because they are designed for pedestrians, not designed for mobility carts. And I think this needs to be taken into account when they do any upgrades. And I don't know if that's been registered.
So, Chair, the subject of the paper that went to council and has been acted on was the placement of standard pedestrian lights on the crossings on the square and down by the takeaway shop. There is no suggestion at this stage of any other changes to pedestrian safety, like islands or changes to parking, signage, that kind of thing. The only thing that we're doing at the moment, just to be clear, is in relation to lighting.
Okay. Can I say, look, talking to NZTA, you might have to also consider, it doesn't have to be done at that time, but they are doing a change to the pre-advance warning of pedestrian crossings, and we need to make sure that ours are now compliant with the new rules they're going to be put in. So to answer my question, when can we see or expect to get an updated report on action? Where do we go to?
So there's going to be a report coming out on the 1st of March.
Coming to us?
No, it will be coming to council, but it will be public. So it's so when it comes out, it will be available.
Okay.
But we request that it was sent to CC'd in the Martinborough Community Board as well when it's released. That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Are we having a meeting? Didn't we organise last night that we were having a meeting with the roading team next week
There is a meeting scheduled
around roading priority?
about priorities.
Around Martinborough and things?
There wasn't specifically with this one, it was to do with roading priority.
Roading priority.
And the report's only just been done and it's still being collated, so it's not going to be ready until the start of March. So it may pay to perhaps move that out, that meeting, because they're not going to have all the information.
For the voting priority.
Yeah, to come to.
I think that workshop, my understanding was that it was just more generally about sort of voting in the district, not about this specific.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, the next topic we want to do is, sorry.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Stefan, I just have one more question. When we were just talking about the changes to the square and you said it's specific to the pedestrian lighting, when we're talking about access for everyone in and the fact that two sides of the square have been built with built-out shoulders to enable people to actually come out so they can be seen away from the cars that are parked there. So they're supposed to be being built on this side of the square, and that's so everything that happens on the square is meant to happen in symmetry. So those built-out shoulders are well and truly past due, and would probably tick quite a number of boxes around safety for access to the pedestrian crossings, for mobility scooters as well as for pedestrians. So yeah, it's just that it's those. No, they can get their mobility scooters.
They're just generally called refuse islands.
Refuse on.
So they're in the middle of the road as well as being on the side of the road. And all it's doing is providing a protective buffer
Yeah.
for pedestrians.
People can see each other.
So are they part of the scheduled work?
Would they be part of that scheduled work, Stefan?
Which.
Not yet.
So
they've
around the pedestrian crossing.
Around the pedestrian.
I think
Be done at the same time.
Safety.
So the only pedestrian safety change that's being made, as far as I'm aware, is the lighting.
Okay.
Anything else would have to be, you'd have to sort of submit or lobby for that to happen.
I'm pretty sure it's been missed. It's not actually,
Yeah.
I don't think it's up to, because some of the work's been done on two sections of the square, and it's meant to happen on all sections of the square, so the other two have been missed, and so it's
They've been
actually
waiting
just
for the work.
work to be done. So they're asking if it can just be finished, really, not,
We'll need to go back and check that.
yeah, because all work around the square is in symmetry.
My knowledge, it's not on the work program, so I'll just find out.
That'd be great, because I mean, they're doing the work anyway.
Stephen, can I ask a question? The work being done, sorry, we're not meaning to pick on you, but the work being done, there's going to be changes to the NZTA's regulation for pedestrian crossings, and our pedestrian crossings currently do not comply with even the current rules. But one of the things they're going to be suggesting is there has to be raised pedestrian crossings, like you see as you come down Kitchener. So are we thinking about doing this, or is this another topic that we have to explore? Because by just putting lighting in, we're not going to comply with any regulation of approval.
We aren't at the moment making changes.
Okay.
On the basis of future changes to regulation.
Okay, so we probably need to find some way of discussing that with the infrastructure team, do we?
I think next Wednesday, when we meet at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we have a broader roading discussion, and I imagine we'll cover a whole lot of bases in that meeting. You might want to bring that kind of topic to that meeting.
Okay, all right. Can you take note of that? Thank you. So the next topic, is everybody cleared, finished, done, dusted? Is the Payne Farm. Now, Karen's been doing a fair bit of work on this. Since Karen put in a request, I think we've come to the conclusion that we do need to be informed. And what we've agreed to do is have a workshop with everybody so that we can understand the financial process, the management process, and what we do going forward. So we haven't set a date yet, have we? No. So we've got to agree on a date. So we'll put out, Katie will put out some, I'm just giving you some things to do. Katie will put out a note to give some options
Okay.
when we can have this meeting. So the idea of the meeting is to have a workshop with the council and other perhaps interested parties to go through and understand those things. Is that satisfying what you were looking to?
Yes, I hope so. I mean, I am at a loss always to understand why seems to be a lack of good financial record keeping on a lot of these issues, including Payne Farm. I mean, the reason that my interest and concern was piqued was the income and expenditure statement that we received at the first meeting showing this substantial loss for the period, 3 months, and now once again we're given a statement. It's very vague. It seems to be a 6-month period now with still a loss. I mean, these financial information in this form is not very conventional. It's not very useful. It's not clear what the period is. So I then requested a full year. You really need a full year before you can get a picture of how any asset is performing. The reason that the first 3 months was so distorted and piqued my concern so much was that it happened to be a 3 month period where they took the full $10,000 rates, you know, in that period. So you needed a full year. I asked for a full year. It's at a breakdown of various things, and the format of the financial information that I received is it doesn't meet the statutory requirements. In my understanding, the council's required to keep good financial records in a conventional, prudent way, and the format of the information I was giving, I don't believe meets that standard. Well, I'm hoping that under our new Chief Financial Officer, who comes highly skilled and highly, she should be able to improve these records. I mean, is there any comment about the format of this information from?
I think.
And I don't know if anyone's.
No,
I mean, it doesn't. No, it does.
I mean, that'd be awesome. Can you do everything? We're going to get on.
Let's do everything.
That's the reason for the workshop,
The workshop.
so we can understand everything.
What is the software that's used to generate these reports? Why is there a panic down there whenever anyone asks for any financial information? You know, it should be a matter of just pushing a button and a report be generated.
I think my concern when you look back on the action list and we go back to November 20, and same comments and issues really that are raised
they
there.
keep being raised
That was
and raised.
now in right.
Yeah.
You know, we need to come to.
You can actually see too how consistently that was pushed for every single meeting.
Every meeting, sorry. Comment on it. Yeah.
Because it was also placed by the community board before us and the training before us. So we have pushed and pushed and pushed. So it's we do not understand why why
I mean,
it was
it
being.
was so healthy. That was so healthy, and I'm just finding it very, very strange that suddenly the income being received is less than the expenditure going out.
Sort of raise a flag to anyone on the board.
That's never happened before, which means that something isn't meeting.
But also,
That's a red
It's a red flag.
we're paying rent. Rents. So it's got their rent and rates payable.
So it's right.
So you project, but also that's
It's only rates.
That's right.
No rent, no rents. Also, I don't see why we can't have a breakdown of the lease amounts for the 4 assets that are involved. I've been told that we can't have that because of privacy constraints, but I've had legal advice on that. It doesn't apply. We're not asking for these people to be identified.
No, that's right.
At various other times in reports that I got access to, those lease sums have been revealed. Suddenly they can't be. So it's very inconsistent. Some of the leases come up for renewal, like the farms come up for renewal.
Yes.
I think it expired May last year. What's the new lease? The homestead's just been leased. You know, we need to have all that basic information to have a governance role in this asset.
I think Karen, for
So anyway, if we have a
workshop
workshop and that all comes out, that would be excellent.
I'd really appreciate if you could structure some of these key questions so we can put them in prior to the workshop so that we know
Absolutely,
they're going to be addressed.
no problem.
Sorry, one of the key issues that I have is there is one burning question that we keep on asking and it keeps on being wrapped up around everybody else, not interested at all in knowing how much tenants are paying or anything like that, except for what is the council paying to the Payne estate for the rent of the transfer station, and that should not be publicly excluded. That's ratepayer money. So it's like we should be able to access
And keep that information live.
information. And that one, we're only asking that one tenant. We don't want to know, logs down
But that is
how much they're paying.
And that was asked way back and was never answered.
And that's never been answered.
So it's that, and you can still have the rental incomes for the farm and the rental income for the, it doesn't, it can be for the house and cottage, and then that way, who knows how much each of them are paying, you know, because we're not actually, we don't care. Like Buck said, we just want to see the numbers. Do you know what I mean? Like that's our role, is to have an oversight, and somehow we've gone from actually being very, very healthy. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands to suddenly we don't have any. And I know that there was funding put into the weighing centre. We know that, but did it take everything out of there? No, it did not. So what is going on with the pain fund?
They've gone in the last.
So these items that they call overheads and personnel are now taking 47% of total expenses, and that has doubled. There's a sum in the report 2 years ago, and the actual amount has more than doubled in a 2-year period. But why? You know, it's been given a different name, but it's basically money that the council's taking for all their operations, and there's some way they calculate it, but who arrived at that formula to calculate that amount of money? It's not clear.
It's right, and it's just.
Is it fair? Anyway, these are a lot of questions.
Our questions we put forward before the workshop, and hopefully they'll give everybody a chance to answer what we have to give answered.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So the next topic I had on was a plan workshop, which I would like to get involved in with the Martinborough CCTV camera system. If you don't understand what that background is, Business Association raised money and put CCTV cameras throughout the township. They are being monitored, but nothing is happening with those. Talking to police in Masterton, they are very keen to have those put on their system, and are currently in the process of upstaging their system, including Carterton. And so I think it's a very appropriate time. I was talking to Sergeant Jill Flower about that, and she's very keen to participate. So what we're going to do is look to have a workshop with police, certain security people, us, and somebody from Carterton maybe, and maybe the police from Masterton, and just go through and see, is it of value? Because in what I've determined, there's at least another 4 years of life in those cameras we've got. But at the moment, it's just sitting there doing nothing. And so it's not, whereas the police could have access to it. The reason I want to get involved in that, I know we rejected it previously, is that we can't be blinded by the fact that activities happening around the country are going to probably grow before they shrink. And so we just need to make sure that we can protect ourselves.
Would this, sorry, Chair, would this be an opportunity to look at other points where we might want some cameras installed?
Look, the idea of the workshop is to review what we've got. Are they the best?
They're not ours.
No, I know they're not, they're the business associations, but there has been requests for CCTV cameras here at the Waihanger Centre, which I don't know would fund it. Could be still businesses might want to fund some of it. I don't know.
No. So if it was for the Waihanger Centre, if it was for the Waihanger Centre, it would need to go through council.
Yeah.
Because this is a council asset. So who's asking for it?
It was when there was the problems with the playground, how the children got blamed for it, and there's been some. I've been witness to some bullying incidents out there. And
Which was an adult.
Yeah.
So look, this is the idea of getting the workshop. If there are ideas, do we need to expand it?
Yeah.
Let's understand how we can use the facilities we want to. Are they valuable to everybody, and that includes the community? If not, let's bury it and put it aside. So that's the idea of the workshop. So Katie and I are working on a date where we can get everybody involved, and we'll do that and let you know. Okay. A lot of workshops coming up.
Yes, workshops.
Be prepared. The next one is for the plan. Now, we had a discussion a little while ago about the plan itself. Now, understand what we've got at the moment in our plan is a very simplistic view that our plan is to listen to the community and get ideas of what they want. Now, there's no reason we can't change at any stage when we get a project on board that we launch it into the plan. And as any of these things we've got in here could be launched into the plan. So the plan is always a dynamic, live document. But at the moment, for the first period to the end of, I think, do we go to the end of February into March with the community meetings?
We're doing them every Saturday to the end of March, aren't we?
Oh, sorry,
all right.
so it's where the pop-ins, yeah.
Yeah.
The end of February, we're saying it's.
End of-
In February, was that?
So I'll do it at the end of February, then we'll have a stop and think and
Decide whether it's going to do fortnightly or
And
monthly
does,
or.
does anything come out of those that we need to put into our plan? As we know, we've got to discuss that and put it forward.
Yeah.
So that's the next stage of there.
Yeah.
And the other one, the last item on that, on my report was about the traffic calming measures on the corner of Kitchener and Princess. We do need to consider those, and perhaps it's going to take maybe Aidan and myself or anybody who's interested to talk to NZTA and analyse what can we be putting there. It's a major heavy vehicle bypass sector. So putting an island there could be obstructive, it could be blinding for people travelling around it. So we've just got to look at what the options may be. So that's what I plan to do. And I'll get, if anybody wants to get involved, I was thinking of getting Mark Owen over from NZTA, who looks after the rating network, and just ask him to give us some inputs, what he thinks should be put in for there.
Good idea.
Okay, so I'll make an approach to Mark and get when he can get available. He lives in Masterton, so he's not too far away. We can grab him off the train before he disappears. So that is the end of the report. Now, I think we need to ask people to.
So I've logged a few of those recommendations as actions. So you'll just need a mover and a seconder to receive the report.
Okay. So
I'll
do we have a mover?
yeah, I'll move
Do
that.
we have a mover? Do we have a seconder? Got a seconder? So you got those?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can move on then. So now we're going to jump back to what is item A8 on our agenda. So this is something, I guess, first of all, do we have a mover to receive the introduction of civil defence emergency management report? Karen, thank you. Second it. Thank you. So you've seen in the civil report in the agenda
Yeah. So Nigel
is going to speak.
and Jane will be here to.
Just remind Nigel and Jane, you've got 5 minutes. We're very strict on that.
Not really. Okay.
Joking. Joking. All right, Jane. She knows it's off by heart, fast and backwards. Yeah.
To find out whether USB, oh, sorry, it's we're live, okay.
Yes, we're live.
Yeah, you're right.
All your movements are being observed.
Hey.
Yes, please do. Yeah. Because it's live, but you'll hear us. This one?
Yeah.
Sorry, they probably can see it. Can they see it at the same time? They might be able to see that, but not us, which is probably more important. They see the shards on that.
Yeah.
Share.
Oh, yeah, that's what everyone.
Okay. Yeah, very easy.
Kia ora, koutou, everyone. I think I've met a lot of you, but I'm Nigel Carter. I'm the Health Safety and Emergency Management Advisor, and I work closely with Paul Gardner. We, in our team, we look after civil defence emergency management and coordinate that for South Wellington District Council. So we work really closely with our partner agency, Wellington Regional Emergency Management Office, we call REMO, and I've invited Jane and Vivian to present tonight. So with the community boards, we're looking forward to working closely with you on community resilience, especially emergency management in general. When we talk about emergency management, I think I explained this in the induction session at Anzac Hall. late last year that there's different phases of it. So we have the ones before a disaster happens, which are readiness and resilience, and then the ones afterwards, which is response and recovery. So we're really interested in how we can have resilient communities and communities that are prepared and know what to do when something happens. So there's in Martinborough the community hub, which Jane will explain more about what that is, but that's over the road here at the ambulance hall. So this is where the community can come together and coordinate for themselves what needs to happen, what help they can offer each other and what help is needed by each other, and then feed into the official council response. And so from there it can escalate to different official levels through that. So I think from the discussion tonight, we've got a few workshops coming up. So in March, we're having workshops with each community board to go through community resilience, how we can plan and what each area of South Wairarapa needs for their community. So we're really looking forward to doing that. Yeah, so Jane is the expert here, so that's enough of me talking.
You're all the experts in your local community. So tonight it's more a background introduction to almost a bigger system. So some of it I might move through quite quickly if I think people are glazing over or Nigel's touched on it. So apologies if it's a little bit of a repetition, but I think it's helpful just to understand how it all fits together. And I know, you may have some topical questions out of, I've had to see the recent event in Auckland and there's quite a bit going on in this space. So now is the time to be engaging the community. So, but just a little bit more, I'm going to touch on some of our hazards, a little bit about broader emergency management, a little bit on getting prepared yourselves. I won't bore you with that, but that's a really key thing to make sure you are prepared so you can help the community, and touch on community emergency hubs. So lots of different hazards. We prepare for, make plans, prepare for all of these. We often talk about earthquakes and tsunamis the most because we figure if you're prepared for the largest, most catastrophic event, you'll be prepared for the smallest event. The most common thing in Wairarapa is flood, but we're obviously, we have got a big coast, even though we haven't got a high population living on that. Pandemic 3 years ago, we prioritised hazards, and pandemic was at the top of the list before our current pandemic. So, and that was rejigged from the previous plans. So pandemic, we have done planning with health and things before this pandemic, but we now have a real life lived event. Just a bit of local history. People have seen these probably pictures around the place, but this is just part of, I don't probably have to explain it to you guys why we're doing this because we're seeing it in the news all the time, but sometimes I have to convince people that this is spending time and energy on. We've got our own special Wairarapa fault, and in 1855 that did cause the largest recorded tsunami in European history, which raised around Cape Palliser. There was also 2 large earthquakes during 1942, which is a really not neat Martinborough photos, historical photos of some of the fronts falling off on P&K and things. So but historical, but as you get older like me, you realise 50 years ago that's actually not that long ago, living memory. We talk about ourselves as REMO, Wellington Regional Emergency Management. Vivian and I live and work here, so there's 2 of us that live and work here. We consider we work for our 3 councils, but we're part of an organisation of 9 councils. So in REMO has 2 people in Porirua, 2 in Upper Hutt, 2 in Lower Hutt, 2 in Company, and a little place in Thornton. So that came out of about 10 years ago, and the government said, hey, civil defence, you're not joined up, you need to do better. It's the same weather, the same roads. Councils, you need to be working more together. You must form a civil defence group. So our civil defence group is the Wellington Region Civil Defence Group. Whole of organisations have obligation, all the emergency services, health, lots of regulations. So we partner, there's only 25 of us at REMO, so it's a relatively small organisation. We're a sort of help coordinate and link with our partner agencies. Nigel's alluded to the 4 R's. You often hear about the response. You might say between Vivian and I, we both tag team, but I've moved into a slightly more responsive space. Vivian would be more around reduction and really just in the community, whereas I'm working more with the councils around that. And as we know, the Christchurch recovery is sometimes a long period, and we're talking about that for Auckland as well. So we're funded by the 9 councils. So that's just the councils. I talked about the 9 of them, the 9th one being Greater Wellington Regional Council. As you see, we have the largest geographic area with 78% of the Wellington region, but about 8% of the population. You know those figures for yourself, but that's always our challenge, physical distances. Other client agencies, emergency services, as well as transport, we refer to these as lifelines. So these guys all have regulated, we have meetings and groups and plannings, and also a lot of that government agencies. So they are all part of our linkages as remote and hence sort of council and community planning together. And of course, community is key. We in communities are key. We often have them at the forefront. Because what we know out of Christchurch is basically about 95% of the rescues were done by the community. So you often hear, oh, we did this, and why weren't the officials there? They did wrong. But actually, the community is always going to be there first. And that is right and proper. Like you're actually always going to be helping your neighbour first, probably before your 111 people get there. So REMA is very keen to join up that community response to the official response. So, for instance, with the first, with Christchurch earthquake, when the tsunami first went out, apparently the officials tried to shut it down. They said, what are these people doing? Health and safety. But, but what we want to do is link with the community and enhance the community. So if the community is doing it, we need to know about it. Go, hey, Martinborough's looking after themselves. They've got great plans. That means we need the resources to go over here. Or there is a gap here. We can support them in that way. So lots of official planning, but the community level stuff is absolutely critical. Lots of act and plans. I just put that up just to know that there is legislated obligations. Sometimes we say stuff and people go, where does it all come from? We train under this, what we call a coordinated incident management system, which is used by FEMS and police and other emergency services. So it means we can send staff up to Auckland. So out of the Wellington region, we've got about 15 from the councils and Remo up there helping at the moment, and they can sort of walk into the operations centre and help out because we've got similar systems. So that's the national training plan, training framework. We have a group plan, so it's quite a readable document. If anyone wants a bit of light reading, we'll talk about priorities and things. So I won't get into too much. I just want to point out also, again, the council has legal obligations. So once again, it's not just Vivian and I saying, please, can you do this? Actually, there's legislated obligations. To have an emergency operations centre, to have trained staff, to try and help build resilience. So I'm talking quite quickly. Is there any questions? But I'm just conscious it's late. And also just want to point out, this is sort of the governance structure. So anything that's been signed off by your mayor, joint committee, or your chief executive at this level, or at this level is Paul Gard, who's our local controller. So, our work program and work plan has been signed off at a broader level in terms of priorities, so you know that. So our official emergency operations centre is actually posted at Marsden District Council for the 3 councils. We train as 4 councils, which is South Cardigan and Marsden and Greater Wellington Regional Council. So we all put on these funny jackets, and if you know you're in a purple jacket, it means you're public information. If you're wearing a white jacket, you're the controller. So this is what they talk about, the training model. People come and see what's going on. We've got ambulance and fire and Red Cross. So we haven't got a current controller on this, we've got it out of date, but just an example there. Just touch on this, different agencies have different lead. Civil Defence Emergency Management, we lead natural hazards. So fire would lead fire, police would lead terrorism, MPI would lead bovine stuff, animal stuff, sorry. So but we would partner and support each other as needed. Sorry, jump back a little bit. Here's my slide. A bit out of order here, but anyway, this is back to earthquakes. These are some of our 4 main faults. We have got a number of multiple other faults, but just indicating this is the main one and upper one. You hear a bit about the Hikurangi Trench. It's been on TV, a lot of research from Japanese and Americans. So New Zealand's been really great to be involved. It's shallower than the Japanese one, so they're very interested in learning more about it and how it moves. And one of the things we worry about is that it's a big slippery earthquake would cause a big tsunami on the east coast of New Zealand. Okay. And some of the planning we do for east coast of New Zealand, high risk of tsunamis, so we plan up to 15 metre as opposed to the east coast of the 10 metre because it's sort of coming this way. Okay. So you probably know this one, drop the hold, this one and a test you on that. Different things if you're in bed, cover your head, pull over in the car,
Blanket.
sometimes things.
We'll be able to blink that. It'll help.
Yeah, less mobile people stay in their chair. A little bit about tsunamis, and I'm conscious of the time, I haven't gone into much detail here, but when we talk about a long, strong get gone, we're talking about a local source, so that's something less than 10 minutes. You need to feel it, you need to move. There's no time, there's not going to be official warnings. It's got to happen very quickly. For a different source, might be coming off South America, it might take 12 hours. We'll be using social media and all sorts of things. Regional ones we worry about quite a bit because they're coming within, say, 2 to 4 hours. So there's time to do quite a lot. But sometimes, you've got to move quite quickly as well. So main message, long, strong, get gone. So if you're near the coast, have an earthquake up or inland as quick as you can. Sorry. So this is our website. You see it talks more about hazards if you want to know more about them. And sorry, Helen and Vivian, we haven't learned how to tag team this very well. We do various workshops in the community, and Vivian would be taking those business continuity. So other things we do apart from the official response, we're always proactively engaging with the community. We work with businesses around their plans, we do workshops, work with schools around their plans. And also with community response plans as well. So just a little guide for getting prepared. So encourage you to do these things. So this is online and have a look at it tonight, or have a chat to your family if you haven't done that already, because as leaders in the community, you've been prepared. And also being able to point the community in the direction of your local council website or web.nz website. I'm always happy to take a question around stuff and people want to know more. So I've talked quite a lot, and this looks like quite a complicated slide, but just trying to join it all together. This is where we encourage households to be prepared, because if your furniture's attached, it's not going to fall over. If you've got food and water in your cupboard and medication, you could camp at home for a week and then you'll be self-sufficient. So if your house isn't up to it, you could, if your house is okay, you can then go and support your neighbours. So check, this is what we'd like people to be doing, checking on their neighbours. And if your neighbours are okay, you could come down to community emergency help, between those across the road here, and help or offer help. The council has a VHF radio, because the hub is so close to the council, which connects with the emergency operations centre. So that was where they had the jackets on, that was the emergency operations centre, which connects with the emergency coordination centre in Wellington, which in turn connects with underneath the beehive. Anyone been underneath the beehive? So they have a take around, everyone sits around the windows, but that's their national coordination centre. So it means, you know, we can be supporting each other, information can be flowing two ways. people up the chain can know where the needs are, and what resources are needed. Was it a question or you just? You're good. So we touched on community emergency hub, and I know you're going to be talking more and touched on that. So you sign the radio. And in this kit, so it's really important to know there's not a whole lot of food and blankets and stretchers there. It is a place for the community to gather. So sometimes my message is quite hard because people get this loose idea of what self-defence is, and they think there's a huge cache somewhere underground of food and stuff. And there just isn't, and there hasn't been. Some of that ideas might have come out of Second World War or parts of Europe, like Ukraine, where we have had underground bunkers, for example. And we've had some stores in New Zealand, like schools might have had 30 blankets or whatever, but there was never enough for the whole community. So what we know is the community supports each other. So this is a place for you to gather and start working together to figure out what you need to be doing. Oh, sorry, I haven't changed that. It's a bit remiss. In the hub kit, there is a hub guide. So the first part of it's generic, but section 5 has been localised. So I think that's something we'd like to be updating with you if you have a chance. I've got an email, just resend the link out to have a look at it. And it talks about very quite high level where you could get food, where you could get water, how you could check on people, how you could shelter people, and where you could get medication from. So that anyone could turn up the hub and go, hey, I'm a stranger in town, and they could get section 5 and look at it and have a bit of a start helping. And you can turn up anywhere around the Wellington region where there's a community emergency hub sign, and there will be a kit and a guide for that area. So if you're in Masterton, you can turn up somewhere where there's a community emergency hub. We know it will be a similar system. So because we know people think across the place. And in that hub kit is lanyards which suggest different roles. So we do exercises and trainings around this, but we don't have a whole lot of pre-allocated people. So we've moved away. Maybe some people would have had a historical idea that there was one person in charge, and we may have had some people it's a while ago, but we know there's lots of very capable people that will step up in an emergency. And so it's more a community response rather than a handful of volunteers. So that's why we'd like you to be champion. And if you think you're good at one of these things, we'd love you to know, hey, if I'm going to think if something happens, I'm going to come up and do this role. Please feel free, nothing's stopping you, but there will be a sort of a negotiation. So you basically put someone in charge, someone to clean up, community space sort of making cups of tea, communications will be on the radios, information coordination, have the maps out, what do we know, public information, sort of sign at the front, hey, we're open, reception, welcoming people, needs and offers is a bit like your supermarket, hey, I want blanket, I need blanket, so sort of matching up those resources in the community. Any questions around that?
Oh, it's great to see that that's actually.
I'm sorry, I feel it's late. Just be me. I'm not going to do that. It's sort of covered.
That's really good though.
That, sorry. Quite quick lot of information, but conscious you've got to, and we will be following up, and we'd love you to get involved in the community. Sorry, but I've been told
Most of you should have had, if you haven't had an email, please let me know. If you've had an email, you've got the link to the guide and about the community emergency hubs. So just really reiterating, and sorry, Jane was away when that letter went out, so she was having that thing called leave over summer, so she doesn't fully know what's in it. Nigel and I will work very closely with you in terms of what you want to do in your community around resilience. I guess the suggestion from me, and that was part of that letter that I sent to you, is we really do need community champions to get the wider community understanding this system that you've just been introduced to, and to be part of the community response planning. So checking that the guide, what's in section 5 of the guide for Martinborough is actually up to date. It's matching your resources, skills, your existing resilience, and then you looking, are there any gaps? Are there anything, things that we should be working together with to get your resilience one step better?
Is it the intention that you want to get this to the public in general?
Absolutely.
What's your process to do that?
So the process for that is having a discussion with you, seeing who wants to champion, and then that's part of the workshopping process is you on what you would like, how you want to lead it, and from Remo's perspective, we would love if it was at all possible, but the time frame might be a bit tight. March or April, my team has been pushed to try and get response practices, public response practices. So things that are advertised on Facebook, anywhere around the community, come to your hub, see how it works, drop in to understand. So
Have you, I'm just, prior to COVID, you know, like it was kind of difficult, but from what was learnt when it came to community hubs from that, and how, so for example, I'm thinking of local marae, but things being fed down from iwi further up the coast that actually fed through, so then packs were able to go out within our community as it arrived, food sources, things like that, from each of the marae, setting up those hubs as one example, but also, you know, the church groups within this town, just thinking of the different ones that I, you know, was involved in, and so, you know, each of the churches had their own like kind of phone trees that they used. A lot of things actually, because we were basically told we were going into level 4 with 12 hours, whatever, didn't feel like very long, and so what we needed to do to kind of mitigate that was exactly kind of what you're asking. Have you the learnings from that, and how you've been able to utilize those systems, or is just what I'm wondering? Yeah.
Yes, I'll hand over to Jane in a second, but just sort of preempt by saying the Community Emergency Hub is a gathering place, information exchange place, and matching needs and offers. That doesn't preclude anyone else from doing things. And when it comes to the shelter, if there are needs for welfare needs primarily, they can be dealt with in all sorts of other places. And obviously the other point I'll make is our community emergency hubs with the kits and the radios are in the urban centres, centres. That does not mean that the small rural communities, I'm not working with them in terms of response planning for them, because a lot of those will be cut off as well. But just to make that
right
as well.
Yeah, oh great.
They might want to come in on the show. Yeah,
That's a concern for us with the big rural areas.
Just because you haven't got a sign and a kit, doesn't mean you can't do it.
Help the community. Yes.
So that would be, you know, we hope with the sign and the kit, all we're doing in the guide is reflecting what communities do anyway and helping them set up more easily. We sort of have some ideals that you need a critical number of people, but if you're in a rural community, you've got 5 or 10 neighbours, you just do a similar thing with your neighbours, you have your resources. Just around COVID, just for maybe background, the community, the language around hubs is interesting because hubs get used a lot. So when we're talking about these hubs, we're talking about community emergency hubs that have signs, but you know, hubs of activity within the community, and Marae just plays a critical role in all the responses around New Zealand, and a really key connector for us. So during the COVID, I don't know who everyone's around through COVID, but you know, community transmission was started in. So we were one of the first emergency operations centres to activate. So we were in on the Sunday before lockdown on the Wednesday, because we thought we had possibility. So, you know, so we were physically in one of the emergency services keeping going. And Marae and iwi just did an amazing job of rolling stuff out and actually worked very autonomously and very separately. We had an iwi liaison, Tia Tuta, so she did a great job of connecting. We would help with some messaging, some public health guidance, some extra food packs once in a while if there were some gaps and things. So iwi, and they did a great job of filling, I think proactively filling needs, which you can't always do with council government money because you restrictions on how you're spending it. Then you know, welfare is supported, sometimes not preventative stuff, like I think some of those food packs going on took the pressure off households and really kept our crime and violence down.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, lots of learnings, and around the Marae iwi engagements, still we have a Remo has
Any more happening?
It's helping re-engage, and we've done various engagements with the Marae. There's always sort of that ongoing COVID has limited some of the community engagement over the last couple of years. So Vivian is just kicking off with a vendor. So we're really keen.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Even over the last winter, it was still almost too soon to be getting large groups of strangers together. You know, so we tended to focus more on existing groups. So yeah. So keen to, you know, we'll go and talk to anyone if there's a wish or a need and try and do that proactively.
Sorry, if I may, just one thing. Next year's work program, as in from July, there is a large conversation with Marae coming up. So I'll start working on that, but I can't really do too much until July.
No, and I think, you know, we were quite lucky because Martinborough tends to, because we do have very large rural areas and other marae through our rural areas, of course, because that's where a lot of marae are based rurally. But we were just kind of blessed because they've been able to set up to do vaccinations and things like that, and actually being able to use the local marae and like most people know, marae is somewhere that you can in an emergency, if your house or anything like that is unsafe, the marae is one of the few places that has mattresses, blankets, everything already there. Yeah.
Oh, they can always cook food.
They can normally, yes.
So much food.
Sorry, lots of sort of sometimes funny language for civil defence still, and we're moving away from civil defence to emergency management. I've still got both of them. But if you're listening to Auckland, they will talk about civil defence centres. So we don't, and the bad, terrible thing is language is a bit different between the different groups. You need to, if you're talking to someone, clarify what they're actually talking about. Was it something where it was volunteers, community organising, or was it something led, or was it on the rise? So they're using CDC to refer to sleeping places and organising places, and that's fine, but it'll probably use the hub to organise and then send a runner down to the marae. Hey, would you open up for us and sleep people? So that might come from the community, or it might come if the phone lines and everything was available. It might come from the official channels. You know, if you only have a bus ride, they might come to the marae and say, would you open up? So there's a sort of couple of options as to how you might engage with something like a marae.
I just, if I could ask a question, one thing that councils and the board, I'm sure, is concerned about is a major seismic event or a flooding event cutting off a rural community for an extended period of time.
Exactly.
The recent weather events within communities shut off for 4 days, but luckily not longer than that. But it's definitely on the cards that could happen for an extended period of time. Did I hear correctly that there's an effort underway to identify the needs of rural communities that might face that one road and lock for 2 or 3 weeks, and bearing in mind that we could very well have tourists in that. Festival which had 100 people in it or something like that. And at the moment, my sense is that we're not that prepared with our communities for that to happen. So is that also a conversation we should be having?
It's a conversation that is being had, particularly Jane and I and the local controller, even though we didn't activate the emergency operations centre for Cyclone Hale, we actually did come down. We were down here in South Wairau before that, as you know. So yes, we are working with communities. We have contacts in each of the communities. We are working at increasing those links into the communities so that we can have communication in and out with them. Yes, we have also noted that, you know, had the event happened when there was a festival out there, outcomes would have been different. But it's about being proactive at the time, and if there had been a need, if there had been a need for something, that would be the moment at which you scale up and ask for regional assistance. And in that instance, you know, maybe it would have been something where Defence Force came in with a larger helicopter to remove people. That depends on the particular need, and if it can't be managed on a local level, you go to the next step up and ask for assistance, regional level, etc., etc.
And that's why the message is for household to be prepared for up to 7 days in time work. We have lots of rural communities, and you know, if the roads are shut or broken, they're shut or broken, and if the weather is really bad, they can't be cleared, and probably a helicopter can't get in. So that is, you know, building that resilience. And if the weather was okay and there was an emergency need, you know, you'd be getting a respect helicopter or defence. So you'd certainly be aiming to help if you could, but that is why it's so important.
It's a little bit different. One of the difficulties is for some households, they can't afford to have spare food sitting water and all in bin waiting in case something happens. They'd be going and eating it, wouldn't they? Let's face it. So that would be how do you support those people, you know?
And you may have, I mean, we had electricity on for 8 hours, I think, last time, and no cell phones, but no cell reception. So you might be in a situation where you had no road, no cell phone, and no power, and so you're only able to save dry food. So yeah, no, I was just curious to know whether you feel as though the communities are resilient enough, or whether we need to.
Oh, yeah, they're resilient.
It's in a big event, it's a Hickory only trench, and it's a Gisborne to Wellington event, and our roads have major impacts. You know, we will be working on our own and getting the main state, the priority road, getting State Highway 2 open, we're getting some of the more minor roads around open, and those rural roads will take weeks to open. So it's a tough, but it's you know, international aid takes about 4 days to get in, so we would be getting international aid in, so there would be support coming in, there would be helicopters. But you know, and that cost factor, we definitely talk to people about that. And what I say to people, water in the reservoir is free, so please store some water. Can't do your food, no worry at all. Get to know your neighbours. Do the stuff you can do, stuff you can't do, fine. Just do it. And we're always trying to make it manageable for people. So not so overwhelming that people do nothing. Yeah. Sorry, that might be a bit grim.
Hang in there, 5 seconds after that.
Hey, I live next to a vineyard. I'm fine. I've got wine.
7 days. Yeah, we really would like people to be prepared to be
Self-sufficient.
Martinborough is a community on their own, supporting each other, and that's very much.
That's the big thing, I think, is, you know, out at Rural Cockapatoona, I know that they were looking into ensuring that they had that water storage at the hall, and most of the rural communities have a hall that tends to be a central migration area for people in an emergency. But yeah, I think a lot of rural people are just used to looking after themselves and their neighbours anyway. Yeah, so it's,
And we've heard that through East Coast Sport Trust.
yeah,
That a lot of the time, I think in Tora was Carol.
Yes.
Knew some of that. Anakura as well, that
Yes.
those people are used to going to the supermarket every fortnight rather than.
yes.
So they've got practices like that leads to being.
Totally true.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just in final note, go back to the how the community board can engage with resilience and with emergency management. In previous trainings, there's been a single person on the board who's been designated as having kind of the portfolio for emergency management. It's been kind of put on one person's shoulders. And so that's an option. That's a decision you need to make as a board, whether you want to do that. Our recommendation would be that you all take it on as a group rather than trying to just say one person. From the track record of how that went last time, it was a bit mixed. And we've spoken to the other two community boards, and they've both of them have agreed to not have a single person, and just to have it as a group activity to all be involved. So, but that is your decision to make.
Yep, so just to reiterate that, I think we need to consider this activity as being part of our plan. And we put that into our plan.
And I would agree with what's just been said, because I think that all of us are involved within the community enough that we'd actually like to know, so we can, you know, like.
And we've all got different groups and different,
Straight away start.
haven't we, straight away different strengths and things.
So that sometimes makes the bird and burn half was burn news.
Okay, move on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
So now we have item 8.2.
Thanks so much, guys.
Please flag. You're free to go now.
It's okay, not, I've actually got it under the civil defence emergency.
That's directly after.
It's under the same one.
Oh, it's
And the civil defence. But then it's also in here. No, it's.
So
Oh, it's so.
we have 8.2, which is the street flag request report.
Yep.
Can I have somebody to move?
Report.
Tell receiver.
Got a seconder?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favour, raise your hand. Yeah, whatever. Motion is carried. Are there any questions about the report?
The only thing is, they're just asking for this year from May to June, because the only concern I had was Matariki. We decided we want to do something in Matariki where we might want flags. Obviously, this year it's not in June, but there will be a year when it will be in June.
But it's only for the 1 year.
But it's only for 1 year, so that was my only concern. But when I saw it, it said it's specifically for this year. So yeah, doesn't mean it's going to happen every year at the same time necessarily.
Does anybody know the reason why they've asked for this? I can understand because we've got olives around the place, but
So the thing with the street flags is that it's about ensuring, yes, that they are used, so they're a community and asset. And I guess it's about ensuring that whatever gets displayed is there across the community and the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. We've won quite a few gold medals recently as well.
They can't.
there is a lot of good stuff out of our.
Oh, yeah, definitely with the olives, but no.
That's the reason for this being requested.
But other times there may have been businesses who would have wanted to put something up, but then it's actually a promotion and that's not what the flags are for.
Yeah.
And so the flags are literally just for, Matariki, Christmas, Easter, you know, like, or
you know, but
Anzac.
Yeah, all those.
or they come to us, which is like with the Martinborough Fair and the post.
So this won't open a floodgate of all sorts of people. That's up.
They might, but they'd have to come to us to ensure that it's, going to meet a wide.
And we did have the olive
community.
in June, a few years back, didn't we, going back?
Yeah.
Have an olive.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was absolutely fantastic, but the price of the tents was actually quite fantastic as well, and so it didn't become feasible for them to hold it. It was a real shame because it was it was fabulous. It was such a good event.
What were the price of what?
The stretch tents they use.
The stretch tent they used, it was cold, it was in the winter.
Okay, yeah.
And it was raining and the square was packed and all the little, like, it was the most amazing evening market.
Oh,
yeah.
They got into financial strife because.
No, it was
no,
just that,
they couldn't do it again.
no, because I think the tents was something like almost 30,000.
Oh, it was phenomenal, yeah.
They were really, really, really expensive and
What a shame.
yeah.
It was great because all the businesses got onto it, didn't they? We had special menus.
Yeah.
Guy wrote the book about the olives.
Lots of places there did like different like culinary events with music oils and.
Well, the big thing with these flags is that I do think that they meet the remit. It's Martinborough.
Yep.
Trees.
And it's green.
And it's like olive.
Lovely,
And it's green, so generic.
green and black, so it's generic. Big colour. Yeah.
Right, Martinborough Primary School. Perfect.
And it's green and black, so you know.
Yeah.
They don't want any money from us. They just want the
Yeah, that's so anyone who the cost for the street flag for them to create their own is the cost.
Right.
But the flag don't say, so the diary management for the flags is usually would be taken over by. Did anyone talk about that last time?
No, so one of the recommendations in this report is to nominate someone to manage the calendar. I believe in the past it was Nathan Fenway.
Yeah.
And he just sort of kept a little bit of a running log, I think, and making sure that bookings weren't overlapping. He, when I reached out to him, said that whoever was taking on this responsibility, he would be happy to connect with and sort of just do a bit of a handover. So I think the board would probably need to nominate someone to just.
And then they keep the flags, but then they can, businesses have to.
Yeah, also the businesses, the person who manages the diary does that in conjunction with Charlotte from the Business Association. And that's around ensuring that the flags are going up when they're
At the right time.
Yeah, right, yeah.
There was this thing about what I was reading about how we install the flags and about it being in conjunction with the proper management of the pavements and some of the elements.
No, it's really simple.
I think they've changed.
It's really simple.
So
Just kind of wind them up.
Don't need to worry about each African.
No, they changed it now.
Oh, that's really
Last time I saw them
On the
out, there were 3 guys doing it.
traffic lights.
Pulling-
Oh, I saw Charlotte. Charlotte did it on the road.
Yeah,
Charlotte did it on the road. Stands in the back of the car and does it.
But Nathan needs to be able to do that.
Yeah, Charlotte does it on the road.
So it's not a hard task at all.
No.
So,
Who'd like that?
so I guess we've got to look at it and say, we're happy to approve.
Yep, I am.
So now,
Well,
Yes,
The use of the olives, yeah.
are we? You got to,
yes, no, I'm more than happy to
so
agree to the request from the coalition of olive groves to install feedbacks.
So what I have to ask is, do we have a mover to approve or not approve? Do we have a mover to approve?
I approve.
Yeah, second, okay, you got that?
Yep.
Yep. So then we need to ask ourselves the question, do we want to nominate a name to coordinate the installation of the street flags? Now, can I just ask a question about that? Does the council get involved or the city care get involved?
No.
It's just a bunch of volunteers.
No, there is, sorry, his name just escapes me at the moment, but he lives here in Martinborough as well, who owns the Flag Tracks business.
Oh, that's Benny Ryan.
Bernie, yeah. So
He's the coordinator we talked to.
well, he's around, so he's the person that anyone who's wanting to look at creating a flag, they would, that he would.
So they
create
manufacture them? No? Yeah, they actually make them.
Nominating someone for the installation. They're asking about who you work with.
No.
No, you nominate.
The nomination is to coordinate the installation of the flags
Yeah.
award.
So typically council and officers haven't had any
Yeah.
sort of limit over the flags. I believe they're
The community board.
owned by the community board.
Yeah.
So Nathan in the past has just sort of done this on his own board.
So without anybody else, I'm happy to be the name
Yeah,
and I'll relate to Bernie and we'll organise the flags.
that's, yes, because Charlotte, actually, it's just with Charlotte. You don't need, you only need to talk to Ben if you want to buy a flag.
Buy a new flag.
So
The new one,
Yeah.
is Charlotte,
Charlotte puts them in. She
She's
better.
Does anyone have Charlotte's detail?
I don't.
I do.
I do.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Perfect.
Because Charlotte had done a request to the community board apparently that she took full responsibility for the flags at some stage, for the flag tracks.
I'll-
The request came through, but
She said
it was agreed on the board that it stayed with the board to
Yeah,
ensure that any flags
always
have that community
Yeah.
oversight before they get displayed
Yeah, no.
on a community asset.
Okay,
Yeah.
we've got a bit of time, but we need to make sure that Charlotte's coordinating that.
Yeah.
But if we need a name for the board to talk, I'll talk to Charlotte.
So you're happy to be the.
Not happy.
Flag.
Not happy.
He's not.
Someone else might be, I'd be ecstatic to be the coordinator.
Would you?
Like saying, yeah, you never really look at my.
Sorry, shall I stitch, shall I?
You're taller than me.
No, seriously,
No, I was saying if you want me to do that, that's a job I can do.
so you can become.
I can do the contact person.
I'm happy to do
Do
that.
the,
I just thought maybe it was.
I can have a diary.
Yeah, go and see Nate.
I'll do a spreadsheet.
Change it.
Yeah,
So
Dying to do a spreadsheet.
do is die forward and take it.
yeah.
Could be.
I'll leave you the bigger thing. I'll leave you the bigger things, don't worry.
Okay, all right.
Well done.
So, do we need a nominator?
So I will nominate Angela Brown to be
Second,
our person. Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant.
being done all over.
I've done. Right.
Okay. So are we then responsible for telling the,
I will write them a letter.
Yeah.
And give your contact information, Angela, and have them liaison. with you.
Yeah.
right,
Do we know who the contact is at Olives? The Olive?
mentioned, isn't it?
It would be in the
No.
application.
Yeah.
But I don't know at the top.
Oh, is it the coalition of olive groves? I might know that.
Oh, well, like.
So the next
Position.
item is the income and expenditure report.
Mm.
Do I have a mover to receive the report?
Yep. I'll move to receive the-
And do I have a seconder?
Me.
Okay. So is that carried? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So do we have any questions of the report? Now, Stefan, are you talking to this or do we ask you the questions if there's questions, or do we just discuss the report internally?
Well, good asking. Ask me a question.
So you give us a good answer.
I said you didn't know anything about financial matters. I'd stick to that if I was you.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions around the report?
The only question I had was, I think I read somewhere that Amanda was going to make sure we all fully understood the different categories, like the purification grant, and the swimming pool grant. There was
It's an open action.
yeah, an action about that for the new members for us to get a grip as to what that's for and what the
Would you
application.
like that to be in like a face-to-face session prior to the next meeting, like a 15-minute brief? Or are you happy if I
Yeah, there we go.
drop that via email, like a 15-minute?
Just just so that when we're going through it, it just makes it a little bit more clear as to what these different categories would
We've
mean.
got quite a lot of beautification funds
There's a
available.
lot of money. Oh,
Yeah.
I think about it. Yeah, we've got with that for the days back.
There would be a beautification.
It's also something new I was turning up because there's a lot of funds in the,
Grading down.
anyway,
Yeah, cool.
so
Can we clarify? So the Martinborough Business Association did not use the $1,000 towards Christmas scale and decoration?
Has it gone back in?
Well, no, it's still remaining there, but they got it from August last year, so I'm wondering.
New ones though.
Yeah.
So if they did, was that from us, and then if that's the case, then it shouldn't be
Shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
Should be gone.
Yeah.
The committed funds spent to date.
there's nothing but,
It says $150 and then $150 spent to date. Remaining commitment is $0.
where's,
So
Down the bottom.
down under grants paid out. Oh,
no, I'm looking at under the beautification.
Christmas gala.
Committed
His
fund.
name on his paddy.
Oh, I see, because it's also under less.
So what do the
grants paid out
different colours mean?
Yeah, it's saying $1,000 and remaining commitment is $1,000 because nothing's been spent today.
Ah,
I'm just a bit.
But they did, I'm sure she drew that down.
they did, because they got the extra sets.
I can follow up.
Didn't they? I'm pretty sure.
on that one.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I'm pretty sure that isn't this relating to the, maybe I've got the wrong thing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
It was the extra string of ones they put this year.
I can clarify that.
Not too sure what the black and the blue colours mean. I don't know. Why are some figures in black and
Oh,
some
I'm
in
imagine
blue?
black and white, I didn't think it called.
Just to make it look pretty, to make it look pretty. Well,
They're roasting.
whatever. Here is mud, isn't it? As usual.
Okay, well, that was my only question, so.
Anyone else have any questions?
Could I throw it out there? With regards to the funds for the Martinborough Swimming Club?
Yes.
It would be maybe just put on thinking cap to see about, I don't know, perhaps like some seating or just to think about what could possibly
Yeah.
be used around the Martinborough swimming pool.
One of the community meetings we had, someone suggested about water safety classes or something to go, or swimming, to use some of the money, but they didn't know that money's there.
Mm.
So about, could we do something about it? I've tried to contact the Water Safety Authority and I haven't got anything back from them, and I contacted a local instructor to see what the cost it was. No, the lady passed.
I'll give Sophie Ship a bottom.
But so, yeah, then I thought, it might be best if I go through the schools and check with the schools, what would they want?
Yeah.
Martinborough uses Sophie.
Yeah, so whether there is some money there. They just said in light of all the drownings.
Yeah,
which-
and I think
The school paid half.
the school paid half and then
We paid.
Yeah.
Community board paid the other half for swimming lessons.
Yeah.
With a little lease.
But are you right about making the swim pool look something there?
Something there that might actually.
Yeah.
To enhance. I'm just thinking about with the pump track as well. There is the funding in the beautification funds that hasn't really been
No.
looked at. And so over this period, like that, I think it would be really good just to start thinking about whereabouts around town. And I thought possibly
Yeah.
around that pump track, because and then that way it's still.
The Centennial Baths is
Nice.
looking, look, it even just needs paint.
Just look at it, just look
The front gate, the paint's all falling off it.
So another issue to that is.
Yeah.
it's been,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but what do we have to do to get that
User group.
functional?
Also, there's the Constantine Park user group that side, but then when they doing the pump track, perhaps looking at some plantings that could just go along between where the swimming pool and
Just to make it
the native planting that you can keep the.
and just soften it as well.
Yeah.
Softens it, yeah, definitely.
From their own, yeah, separate
And
zone.
also if they're picking up any kind of dust as well, you don't kind of want that going through the pool, so.
No,
Anything that you can
have a barrier.
that just is, like shrubbery, like.
So is that going to be quite close to the pool?
Yes.
yeah.
Down there.
But it's not gonna be a dirt track either.
I know it's not gonna be a dirt
It's gonna
track,
be concrete.
but they'll see when it's dry. And going to and fro between them, and like it doesn't matter, because
just
they
like
don't necessarily stay on the concrete.
You know.
So that's something we could discuss at the Constantine Park user,
I was going to say yes, that
to sort of get that feel of what the pump track and if they've got any plans.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, no, that's really
I've been thinking about the beautification fund
nice to spend.
and that they hadn't, really been utilised,
Totally.
so just as something for our beautification of the town.
Yeah,
just a clarification, did the user group decide what happens in Constantine Park, or is
Well, then they'd bring it back here to say, guys,
It comes
we
back
think
here.
we'd like to see X amount of dollars spent on.
so we can initiate some discussions with them and then come back and.
so say we did do some planting and native trees or whatever, there's obviously the maintenance aspect of that once it's established.
So council still look
I'm
after
not-
it and maintain the, yeah.
On the point of trees, on one of the acts we've got to follow up, I spoke to Michael and there was a point that it was looking at doing a tree
Tree group?
He said what he would like to see us do is the community board is put some note out there, invite anyone interested to be part of that group. He said he don't want to be the only person. He's the tree guy. He's the tree man. But he said he'd be happy to wait to a few people. So he said if we can get a few people on, if we can get a few people involved with that, he'd be more than happy to then look at the historic trees we've got and the plantings and in general. And of course, you know, it's like he'll plant a tree anyway.
Yeah.
What do you want, Commissioner? Not gonna do it. He'll dig it on the tree.
So the other part of that is the Payne Farm statement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any comment, Karen?
Well, once again, we've got this funny period that looks like 6 months, but it's not very clear. I just wonder how useful that statement of income and expenditure is.
So I think these will be clarified in our workshop.
Hopefully, I just think we need more useful financial data about Payne Farm.
So it's clear, that's
It's
all.
clear, that's
Clear.
clear. It doesn't say what the period of- I only guessing that it's 6 months because the income looks like twice what last one was, which was 3 months.
So
So why are we guessing?
do we know what the 75,000 plus funding could be available for? Are we the sole deciders of that?
Well, the thing is that there's meant to be $40,000 per annum
Yeah.
set aside specifically for maintenance. But that's not on here.
No, I've got
So it's not showing that anything's been put aside specifically for that, which then seriously concerns me because that would only give us
Not much more.
$35,000 in there.
left, yeah.
They do have repairs and maintenance and buildings and that,
Those are charges to us.
are those, of course, they are.
And they don't come anywhere near $40,000. So it's meant to.
But what's the balance? If there's some residual left, where does that go? That's another question, isn't it?
Well, it's
$40,000, but it's not
going here.
Stay on this account.
supposed to, and it's not.
Accumulating, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a governance policy, there's a policy, isn't there, which states how this money can be used. And I remember that Amanda said it needs reviewing or
Well, it
something.
doesn't matter how they review it. It's based on a bequest.
That's right.
So it's a change.
Basically, it's got to go, the benefit's supposed to go to the children.
Yeah, children of Martinborough.
Yeah. It was sporting originally too, and I did wonder whether I've got an idea that I think, you know, we've got this really valuable asset here with the library, which last time I looked at the operational costs, it's about $1,000 a week to run that library. Now, I know when it was in the original site, there was a lot of children using the computers to the point where some of the staff found it quite onerous, but at least it was. But I noticed that it's not as well set up here. You've got a tiny little desk. There's nowhere to put your papers. I wonder whether in the intervening years, more children have got computer services, you know, at home, and it's not so needed, or is it, or is it really needed?
Do you know what though? You're right. That's exactly that is.
Could be made a hell of a lot better and more user friendly. Are they just on their phone?
People are just using.
And maybe they are.
More readily available, isn't it?
But I also know there's a really good printer there, and if you want to use it, there's nowhere to put your paper.
Yeah.
In and out. Like it's such a good facility that costs $1,000 a year.
Oh, wait.
But maybe a week, sorry, but maybe if only. But maybe it's not, the children don't need that so much anymore. I just wondered if they did.
Okay.
All got their phones anyway. Just thinking of money that we could use for children's benefit.
It'll definitely be a need for people.
Yeah.
Everyone does it.
Because, you know, when that bequest was made, there was no technology, there was no internet or whatever. So it was sporting activities. But now perhaps there's other things that the children might need that we could put that money to.
How did you go to a sport net?
I just- Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to clarify the use of the Payne Farm income because it's very specific. It's not necessarily for the children of Martinborough, although
I mean, that's what it says, so.
it's that the income of the trust land should be used in maintaining and improving the borough's parks, sports grounds, camping ground, swimming baths, providing, equipping and maintaining sports field facilities and a children's playground in such a manner. And so it carries on from there, but it needs to be specifically used for
Those things.
one of those specific things. So the library
Wouldn't apply.
wouldn't fall within.
I know that was reviewed from the original bequest, because the original bequest was that land would actually be used as a sports facility.
I don't.
Anyway, it's been upgraded to that.
It says in February 1966.
Yes.
That is what the court directed, and I don't believe that it's been.
Changed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would.
Yeah.
It's been tried. Being challenged by other,
By the council over the years, and it has come nowhere every single time.
With
That is rock.
Same farm, my concern with it is the actual homestead and the cottage, are they up to a healthy home
Yes.
standard?
Yes, they are.
They both got
That
their.
was the very first thing, so if you go back. That's because I know how much we love reading, it's
Yeah.
how much time we have on our hands. If you go back to the first meeting in 2019, in December 2019, you'll see what the list was of works to be done prior to anyone moving in there, and everything had to come up to standard.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of work done on both the homestead and then after into the cottage. So, yeah, so
Don't you know the Healthy Home Standard Act
You're
changed?
saying they have to have a healthy home certification. Do you-
Yeah, it's a new certificate that
Yeah.
was it 3 years ago it started to have to be issued?
Are we able to clarify?
Can we just clarify it's got one?
that the homestead and the cottage both received?
Can I,
Councils are exempt.
can I suggest we put this into that?
Or in the paid family.
To be able to
Fine,
get.
And then let's
Well, I'll ask that question.
do it for the
Yeah.
workshop.
Yeah.
because
Perfect.
These are things we'd have to go through.
Separate.
Whereas we're going to have a workshop, we'll have people there to ask questions. If they don't, we can specifically flag the question to be answered.
yeah, it'll be nice though. I mean, if we give them the heads up, then they can come to it with the answer.
That's what I'm saying. So
I'll make a list, and I'll add that on to it. So
Karen's preparing a list of all.
Meet the health
things.
healthy homes.
No.
So can we,
Accept it.
You know, yeah.
well, it's accepted.
Money.
Cool.
The financial assistance.
Yep, financial assistance report, and we have somebody to nominate that we receive,
I'll move.
financial assistant.
I'll receive. Okay.
Second it.
I'll second that.
All those in favour, please raise your hand, whatever, say yes.
Yeah.
Aye, okay. So what do we think about these applications?
Yeah, that's why we asked them to come speak. to us.
Okay, so with the netball one, we asked them to come talk to us, because I had a few questions.
Now,
Which was, well, one of the things is we can only allocate maximum half the total grant pool, and they wanted more than half the current grant
Oh,
pool.
really? 3,000?
Yeah.
More than half.
And it was just to really ask how many players will benefit from the uniforms, how many children they were dressing. From my perspective, only the dresses were the essential part of the uniforms. Just to make it so more people can get things. Questions in general, but what comes out of this is, if I could ask, or if we could change some of the forms so that it said some of that information in there, we wouldn't need to do that. If it said how many, this funding you've applied for, how many people will benefit directly from this funding, that's the question I wanted to ask them. If we could maybe look at, or if I could look at the forms and say, would it possibly change to include this and this? It might just clarify questions without us having to search for that. That's all.
So clarification. Can we approve this expenditure without somebody making a presentation to us? We can.
Some, decide what and how much.
Do we still have questions around the application? So I think it is. But what's the official process to go back to Ashley and say, look, we should have been here, or you need to come?
Or you can say, these are the questions we've got.
That's our questions. Yeah.
And
Have we-
we can answer them, we could.
Right.
and we've got all of the sufficient information for the
Available grants?
financial accounts.
I couldn't feel that.
So they're asking for 3,000 from a
Quite a lot of money.
6,800.
So we received 4,700 is the grant pool that we receive a year.
Yeah.
So, yes, so
So they're asking for 3,000.
$3,000.
Every chunk of that.
So,
And it said the grant available at the moment, what we've got in the thing was $3,900.
Can I say, and just to show that I have a complete, not even bias, because I never played netball. Netball was not my thing. However, I know that netball is very much engaging for not just the children, but actually a lot of parents. And they all get involved, and so it becomes very much and in Martinborough, it's a very, very popular sport. And although she hasn't come to speak to us, if we can get the financial figures, because I'm not ever willing to put anything through without them. And that's one of the things that we're asked to be provided with.
So,
But the financials are only for applications over $5,000.
I was just gonna say, under the current
okay.
policy.
Okay, oh no, but that's okay. Well, then I mean, I'd be willing to put up 500 for this.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that amount of money, so, yeah.
So,
Just going by what.
Yeah, no, I.
Past other school,
Totally
very sporting groups.
So it's been around 500.
That's always been
Yeah, I
around,
mean, yeah.
so not the 3,000 are asking, but 500, which will
Yeah.
contribute.
which we could do as a contribution.
Yeah.
Put towards this, but I mean,
It's showing some.
I don't know how anyone else feels. I mean, this is just my, where I'm coming from.
No, I totally agree. I think we should definitely give them some money. I didn't question giving them something. I just felt that we couldn't give them as much as I was asking for.
No.
It's difficult not knowing
And we'd asked previously for them to come and they haven't, so.
So the question I have with this side,
Yeah.
they've put down the breakdowns of hoodies, dresses and training
Yeah.
tops. How many people, I think it's critical to
Yes,
know, how many people are we talking about?
Yeah, that's-
$2,000 for hoodies, there's a lot of hoodies.
Yes, it
It's the same for dresses and it's the same for training tops.
Yeah.
So we would we make a contribution and say, we're happy to provide $500, but we'd like to know how many people $500 is going to serve, or what you're trying to say.
On the proviso that we receive their accounts.
Well, not their accounts, because they don't need to,
Don't need to.
5,000, however, we would like a presentation from someone just to advise how the money's spent as well. Okay, so these are the things, I think anytime that we're giving out like anything like that would be really nice to actually get some feedback.
Yeah.
Because it's a positive thing we're doing, and I'd like to know that it's on the right to a positive, the positive outcome.
So just for the clarification, Katie's volunteered quite nicely to do the letter writing to them. Do we do a two-stage letter? First stage is, can we have this bit of information? And when we get the information, we can say, right, we're happy to grant.
Then we would look at, I think
no.
that's a big grant.
So we could need to
I'm up with the $500.
that
This has already been deferred once, I think.
we
hasn't it?
it had already been.
I think we give them 500. Sorry.
Make it because we didn't have them there, but we've made, but we would like to be able to provide some help towards the uniforms for the year, and so we have,
So you want to combine in the same. with it?
500. We would ask that they come to advise what it is that is actually purchasing.
Okay.
Did you want that for all applicants? I can just add that as a note in the funding letters, that the board requests that all recipients of board grants come and present to the board at an upcoming meeting. Yes.
Because I think that is sort of what we asked for.
Well, no, it helps them build character too, especially when it's the little kids, like just like having them come in.
Oh, yeah, that'd be so cute. Then we'd give them anything. Yes. It was just, I hadn't seen the picture of the dresses and they had sponsorships names on them, and I don't think we should.
There are other sources of money there are other sources of funding that they have.
Yeah, we should run the criteria of a certain amount.
Oh, is that right?
They have to actually prove they've gone to somewhere else.
So does anyone else have any monthly to do, or is it?
Doesn't say that.
I think $500 is a nice amount, and it's
$500 comparatively to what we've done in the past for uniform.
Yeah.
Just based on even what's in our financial.
We've got to
grant.
on this
I think
without,
I think that would be.
yeah, totally, yeah.
So did they say that? It's not filled out, or is that something?
The community garden.
We just need, we need a seconder for that one, for the $500. I have moved by Councillor Maynard and seconded by Karen. Yep. Thank you. Everyone's in favor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for the second one, for the community gardens,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Look, I have absolutely the value of the community garden. Now, I am really passionate about it, but it's because they do such an amazing job and they ask for so little, don't they? And try to give them more money and but they are happy to be accountable to us for every cent we.
Well, they have
them,
their full
of them.
account.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and they'll vote to run the accounts for the council. They seem.
what they haven't done is tell us how much they would like, so.
Yeah.
We need to make that judgment
I
ourselves.
thought there was an amount on there, thousand.
Was that-
$700.
Oh, so
The page.
there were some pages missing from that application. I resent out another one, but I have a copy here.
That's right, okay.
1,100.
I read 90 of those ones.
Sorry. Yeah. I didn't forget it and check.
I was just proving I've read them. Yeah.
Well, they did spend $14 and there's a question mark against that.
Uh-oh.
That was probably a gin.
$1,100.
Yeah.
It'll be.
Yeah, no, so that's cool. Yeah, I think it's a great cause as well. We just need to encourage more people to take things.
And
I love the fact that any time when I'm not feeling well and I'm at the pharmacy, I can pop in and I can go and get fresh vegetables from the doctors. That's
Great, isn't it?
but I mean, it's just awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's so awesome, and just go home, get like crap and make a soup.
the amount of parents too, like they come in with the kids and the kids will grab them and run, or like they'll grab themselves
We
and.
talked about this with how because where it is, the fridge as well, you can feel a little bit like, oh, I'm going to take something and you feel like being watched a wee bit.
Yeah.
I made a big thing about getting a cauliflower. It's the only thing I've ever taken, and I have a cauliflower. Good talking of cauliflower, don't you?
Have you heard about that woman that was like, and they're taking cauliflower? Like,
Yes,
So
we're definitely happy with that.
are we in agreement?
I
So how much would that leave left in the grant fund?
I can pull
Oh,
up.
if we did it,
About 1,500.
1,100.
So there's 3909.3 minus $500 for the first grant, minus $1,100 for the community garden,
300.
$2,309.23.
Okay. Thank you.
Because when's the next grant?
February.
February.
Oh, no, March.
No,
Oh,
August.
February, and it is February.
November,
And
February.
May.
No, I think it did say.
Look at the funding rounds that you typically do. August.
Yeah.
August, February, yeah.
So each financial year.
Wait, so August is next,
Yeah.
Would be next financial
would be
year.
next financial year.
So it'll be the money. will be-
And I believe there is annual plan allocation for more grant
So it could
funding.
roll over, so if we don't use all of it now, that's okay.
Does roll over?
It has in the past.
Yeah.
rolled over.
Okay, all right.
Okay. May I say something with regards to the one for the feathers?
Yep.
Oh, wait, we
haven't voted for the fund.
Oh,
Just need a member and a seconder.
So we just have a mover for the $1,100.
I'd move that.
What's your name?
Now.
Pay that for everything.
Now.
No.
Thank you. Now you can move.
Angela Maynard. No, no, just a confusion.
You can tell, can't you?
We always laugh.
So do you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Featherston Community Centre Charitable Trust.
Advertising.
Now, again, I've gone over to the Featherston Community Centre and had the annual classes, and I think it's very cool.
Did you
what they-
pay?
Yes. Well,
Just joking.
so it was, it was, but so what you pay is, that's pretty good. And, but that's the thing, is that these guys get funding from the council and you can't go in and get funding from a whole lot of different things that are all basically
Council.
so I don't believe, it would be
So,
right. for us to do.
Under the policy, it's for the same activity. So if they haven't requested council funding to support advertising, I believe it was for kitchen renovations that
Yeah.
the community and youth grants funded this financial year.
So they
Is that
had-
right? So
I'm not sure because I can't remember if there was more than one that they went for.
there was two, and I think one, I can't remember, but I think one might have been declined and one was approved at a partial amount. And I believe it was for a kitchen upgrade to a commercial kitchen. So this would be for a different activity. So it would be able to be.
In terms of funding has, yeah.
Community grant applied for two, one unsuccessful. Yep, that's what I remembered from this year. So it's a different activity, but it's still up to the board to decide.
So how much have they received from council?
I can,
20 to
Yeah,
$4,000 for operational.
4,000 for.
Oh, this is,
So,
what publication?
It's Martinborough.
yes.
Does say doesn't matter, sorry. Oh, God.
I didn't know that charged so much.
This seems very specific, the Martinborough Star. I mean, how many people wrap their rubbish in it? How many people read it? I don't
No,
know.
I read Martinborough Star. I hope you read it.
I love it.
Somebody posted a us in it last month. Yeah, I love the Martinborough Star. Big fan of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The article about my.
Oh, sorry.
That's so cool. Front page. I don't know. Okay, so.
What is it that they've advertised?
It's to show you the ad. If you go right.
So they're asking for some funding, but it looks like they'll ask for Greytown as well.
Yeah.
To enhance the wellbeing of the South Wales supporting community members, so it's letting people know that they don't have to travel over the hill.
Yeah, no,
It
good.
is.
It's pretty important.
But Katie, can you tell me this then? If we gave them funding and then they went to Greytown for I was going to say the Phoenix, but it's not, the Grapevine.
Grapevine, yeah.
Would they be able to do that? Or because they've gotten grant funding from us, then they wouldn't.
advertising.
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 Yeah, I don't know. I can pull up the wording from ineligible applications.
Things.
Apply for a grant. Applicants may not be in receipt of any other council or council administered grant for the same activity in the same financial year.
Oh.
So, I mean, the community board would just have to sort of take that and decide if advertising in a different medium is considered the same activity or not.
Advertising.
I'm like,
Advertising.
yeah.
So the this amount of grant in this application
Complicated.
is just 132.
Yeah. 50.
Look, I honestly, what they're asking us to provide, that support services, all of these are so important, and people don't realise that there is anywhere in the South Wairarapa they can access it.
Oh, okay.
There is quite a lot of double up on some of those. They're like, community law is here as well.
That's right.
Soil libraries here.
Oh, you mean double ups like?
The advert itself, they're advertising services that we offer here.
Yeah.
So I would rather that they
Ah.
only advertised, so it's a bit generic. You know, the cancer side support would be good, and autism is only specific because you've got to go from here, that's where you'd go. And narcotics and things, but some of them are doubling up on things that we do. Digital seniors we offer here as well.
But what we don't offer, and the majority of the stuff that we don't offer here is like I say, mental health.
Yeah. I think it's really important, as you say, that we know that you can actually go and access that there.
And that it's close by.
Close by.
I mean, I look at that and I just, we all know that what there is a lack of within communities right around New Zealand.
Yeah.
Is support for mental health.
Yeah,
and funding from central government.
Yeah.
And I know,
yeah.
that's true. So to me, I mean, if it's $632 and it's going towards something.
And we've got,
given-
and the money's there. Yeah, the money's there, they've applied
And
for
the
it.
community board had looked at supporting a concert.
Yeah.
Mental health.
Oh, really?
That was looking at being run in the square, but didn't end up happening because of COVID.
Oh, shame.
Yeah, and haven't been approached again by the same individual about that, but I might.
Yeah, I think the word supporting because of what they do offer, because it is stuff we don't offer.
Yeah.
But I also think we should be looking at some of the things they offer and maybe offering it here as well.
Oh,
So we should be checking in with them.
Whether they. We don't have,
We don't have the funding.
and they're a specific Featherston.
They've also got a health something attached to.
So they've got,
Their health something attached.
they've got some government funding for that centre.
They're really well set up.
Okay,
They've done a great
okay,
job.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, look, honestly.
So yes, I would say I'm happy to pay
Yeah, all right.
to approve $632.
So I want half the amount, yeah.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, I've got,
Okay.
Yeah,
So we agreed that we're happy with this.
Yeah.
It's
That's all we've got to spend our money on.
we have a mover and do we need one?
yeah. I think,
Okay,
yeah. Oh,
so
It's now.
yeah, she, huh?
oh, was it you?
No.
Yeah, I did that. I can tell 20
I've been there, done that.
right.
Hurrah.
It's great.
I think we've come to the end of our little session, haven't we?
Yeah, it's the action items report.
Thanks, Mark.
That's that one.
Oh, we thought we'd leave those.
So 8.5, the action items report. Can I have a thank you, in a seconder?
Receive it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We can receive it.
Yeah,
Find out. Oh. Here's it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's it.
25 to 27.
oh, you've got nice big sheets.
Yeah, well, I printed it out here and it suddenly went to this big one.
No, the appendix is the first action is 23.
So 176 talks about the pain farm that we're waiting on the new finance manager who's been here now. So that was back in May.
On and on and on.
And then saying that the policy will be reviewed in the next policy review and will include a process for setting overhead costs because back in September 2019, when some of the things were actually put together, I think it's 4 years is too long to wait for traction on this.
Yes.
And so I think that we need to be quite specific and that for the next council meeting, we would like a report back covering the overhead allocations.
Well, they have.
That over the previous 3 years, now that's the previous 3 years from 2019. So I think we need to be very specific that it goes from 2016. We would like them to look at the overhead costs from 2016 to 2022.
So do you want me to make these items?
No. I'm asking
You're going to ask.
go.
Yeah.
This is back in here.
Well, I know.
The action that we are expecting to get the information back for the next for the next Martinborough Community Board meeting, because we'd like that information. There is no reason for it to be excluded.
They did give me a formula by which they calculate
Yeah.
it, but it's meaningless. How does
That doesn't mean anything about this.
nothing?
What we've been asking for since
No.
2019, which was that council review the overhead cost allocation model for the Payne Farm, and that following that review, they consider whether any overhead allocations for the last 3 years, and now that goes back to 2016, should be credited back to the Payne Farm account, which has now moved to 6 years because it hasn't been done. So we don't want to continue having a cost going back to council that then has to come back to the Payne Farm, because where does the money come from? Ratepayers. So the longer that this is left, the more it accrues. We need to get this sorted out as soon as possible, so that way there's less cost to our ratepayers.
Payne Farm, see what one more topic on Payne Farm, because we don't talk about it forever, but they were advertising for someone to specifically manage that asset.
That's incorrect. It was a 0.4 position, I believe, and it was for a property portfolio manager, which manages all of the council properties, not paying for exclusively.
Okay.
So just this update would be that members are requesting that the overhead cost allocation for the last 6 years be provided in a report at the next community board meeting.
And look, that council look at whether any overhead allocations for the previous 6 years be credited back to the paying farm account. So it's pretty much the wording of number 5, but because this was done in the 19th of September, 2019.
Yeah.
It needs to now include the next, these following 3 years where it hasn't been done.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite hard that it got put onto the new finance manager. But in May 2022, however, that's given a good amount of time for this new one to, well, not for this new one. But Karen hasn't been there for that long. However, I'm sure that she'll be able to get the information collated and put together for us as soon as possible, especially if she's doing other work for the paint farm to come and present.
Yeah, well, I see no reason why that information shouldn't be really available.
Yeah, well, it should have been. I mean, the excuses that have written on here since 2020.
It's just ridiculous.
Well, no, it's just, it's absolutely, this is where it goes. Then it was going, it needs to go to the farm before it can come to us, and then nothing. Then an update requested, then another update requested, then they were told the following year that it's going to be reviewed.
It's not good enough. It's not.
June 2022. So this just needs to stop now and just get fixed.
Absolutely
done.
It was the 16th of June.
So the Martinborough Community Board want this action done because it's been since the 19th of September 2019. It's not noted.
Yep.
Yeah, come.
So enough is enough.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
Okay,
What have we got next? The tree growth.
The update with that one was
the update, that one I'll advertise, see if we can get
some stuff out on Facebook and
so I'll do some work on that and see if I can check it. And
The tree one.
the tree one, yeah, so I'll do Facebook posts and just
Do anything like smoke them. Got in trouble without their bushes.
Without what? I'm quite happy to be the tree person on this committee.
Oh, cool, there you go, that's great, yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is helpful.
I'm very enthusiastic.
it's great.
That's perfect. So we've got 2 people now.
right.
Okay.
The other one was who used to come to us and was Mark.
Mate.
Martin Free.
Yeah.
He's the history. Martin Free.
Free was one of them.
That's why we did a petition to save that total tree.
Oh, right, so he'd be right.
The previous meeting.
Yeah, so he's
Awesome, yeah, right.
I've got his contacts. We would work together on the 2 things. Yeah.
Awesome.
To do with trees. Yeah.
Be one more person we've got.
and then
Yeah, cool. So that's going to be actioned. So what's the next one? I've got that bit missing. Oh, community garden.
Funding partnership.
so that one doesn't exist.
Is it closed?
The community garden one, I've got the main shed are looking at whether they've got space out the back of there that they're prepared to work with,
Over there.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
which I think would be a really good.
We just we just need to check.
Yeah.
What soils
Yeah,
are at the back there, so whether or not
Campbell suggested it is
Yeah.
out there, and so I've contacted them and I just put feelers out. They said they'll discuss it at the next meeting and see if they're interested in pursuing it. So it might come to something or not.
yeah.
So would they do both?
But maybe we could just put that as a note on there.
Yeah, yeah.
But because I don't think it falls, all of the things that's moved now
Yeah,
quite
it's,
significantly from the funding partnership.
yeah, it's completely changed.
So we say that's closed, do we?
I think we should close that.
Yeah,
I think
we can just put another.
we can just make a note there that
Yep.
the men shed is
Currently
is
looking at that.
at whether this their part
Can go into partnership. Yeah. And then that closed off.
Yeah, partnership with the community garden, and so then we can close it.
Oh, we can do that before we close it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then you haven't done anything
Sounds fine.
So would you like 429 closed?
I think so. That's no longer relevant, is it, the partnership? Is that
Well,
right?
they're not looking for funding.
No,
partnership.
no.
What they say is that the grant they're making is for their ongoing running costs, which they.
But it wasn't
Stop them applying for it.
I think we,
No, that's closed.
Yeah,
okay,
that, the funding bit's gone.
Yeah.
we all agree with that?
Yeah.
29 is closed.
Gone. Yeah,
Okay, good,
we don't need
I
that
think
now.
so.
right.
I know.
Hope to close 176 too very soon.
That's 497.
497,
Oh, the
Always doing that.
Manapina was town.
Right, so that's Mel.
Yeah.
So, Mel.
so any,
Sorry, that's still in progress, just leave that one.
Yep, that's still in progress.
Next.
anything you can tell us?
Sign it, but
So, I can actually give you guys a little bit of an update about that. So, the main reason is because, Teresa's passed away. She was part of, around this. So I do have other people within, Nazi Hippolyta and things where I have already spoken to about this. So I have flagged it that it's something that we were working on. So hopefully progress it. Progress it.
and the timetable is in their hands, really. It's their, if they don't find it urgent, we'll just back them up. That's the position, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
31, it will cross
Oh,
cutting.
What's the sign?
Yeah. Where was Nathan going there to?
He gave me the
The draft?
it wasn't a draft. But it's Andy, isn't it? That would
I don't
be
know.
spoken to.
Andy Short's on here, Local Griffiths.
Yeah, I thought Nathan was going to talk to him.
So it needs,
Let me know, but no, can that be moved from Nathan to me? Can I
take over the project.
take that and I'll,
And we'll just continue it.
talk about progressing that.
Okay, 127,
Backtrack. What?
Actually, what happened with that?
That's the actual track.
Do you know what, that actually needs, no, it didn't, it hasn't been done, and it absolutely is something we should be looking at doing, because Rotary run a massive event, a huge race, a huge
And they are flagged.
Martinborough, and we don't actually ask for or
Anything
an investment and things back. So I think that was what that was right, wasn't it? That's what.
So councillor
so councillor Clenso was drafting an application, was anything?
yeah.
Do you want me to follow that one up, and I can
Yeah.
ask Pam where she got to and just check with South Africa?
That'd be amazing, thanks.
So she hasn't, then that would be
Just it's an easy one, yeah. Should be just.
Okay.
One.
317,
Barbecue.
Oh,
we're closing that.
you were getting in touch to find out, because it was about them looking
A huge amount of money involved there.
wasn't it? Would they be able to look after it out?
That's it. Well, yeah.
What came out of that?
So to take away part of the.
Ms. Maynard. Don't know which one. So is that?
Not really great information in the council passing on.
I didn't make, that's how we can tell. Very good. So Mel, that's stolen by, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Update.
so what are we going to do with this one? It seems like it's a bit of a
Which one are we talking about? The barbecues?
barbecue.
No, we're talking about the next. Mel, you
so
said,
leave the barbecue.
that's with you?
Yeah, I'll
Okay,
have
so
an update for that.
Okay, so moved
So
on,
now we're on to the.
502,
we're looking at, the Māori Standing Committee is looking at having a wānanga, where Wellington Water is going to present.
I've actually followed up on this one. Stefan's been across it in the last few weeks. We've been sort of going back and forth. You might have an update.
There's two parts to this actually. The first one is the hui, the waihui, which was just mentioned, or the one. we had it planned and then it was cancelled. Amongst the fun out there.
Yeah.
We're very keen to reactivate that hui, and we've asked the chair of the MSC to help us find new dates. It's really balls in their court now. Wellington Water and the council are ready to go, and we want to have that hui happen, and that conversation, that broad conversation about water holistically. So it can happen as soon as we can settle the date. The second part of it is that there's this planting of the restorative planting. Now, Wellington Water Limited apologises for having dropped the ball on that. It's something that's been missed.
Yeah.
And it has now been actioned or assigned within Wellington Water to Paul Clark. So Paul Clark is to make sure that planting is put onto the work program and done.
Excellent. So it may pay as well then to perhaps check with Unui and with the Moana group as well, perhaps, but just to cover all bases for the spiritual into the Mahanga. Yeah, so
Would you possibly be able to provide me with the context of those people? Because of the all in Wellington are dealing with MSC on it, but if there's a wider group of stakeholders who actually
actually just putting it out to the Māori Standing Committee, because I'm pretty sure it's Karen who's on the Māori Standing Committee, who is a part of the Wairarapa Moana group, or and because of Paiti Mokai and and because she's one of anyone. And she's also part of Koino. So it's kind of like the Māori Standing Committee is getting out there, it's going to the right place.
People.
But can I request then that when that happens, perhaps you need to be there for the Martinborough Community Board, because this was actually something flagged by the Martinborough Community Board. The background needs to be given by the Martinborough Community Board to the Māori Standing Committee with Wellington Water there.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a plan?
Okay. So it's still
We
open.
actually presented to you. But we did last triennium, I presented to the Māori Standing Committee about specifically that we were asking them, talking to them about the waste overflows, and wanted to know if they would consider, riparian planting and things as a good measure, for repair, and how we could support them.
So this is still open. I'm just
Yeah.
confused as to who's transporting it.
Māori Standing Committee.
I'm on the Māori Standing Committee as well. Well, I suppose I just don't take this out of your hands because I'm on there as the councillor. No. Yeah. We'll see if we'll make sure you're involved, but can't make it. I know you've got stuff on.
Okay. Good.
But I think,
Councillor, okay.
It's me, I think I may, can I excuse myself? I've got my daughter going back to the UK tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh, so safe journey.
Thank you.
Then.
So the 504 looks like something.
You'd ask for that.
That's what we talked about a bit earlier.
I'm just putting an invite in for 6:30 prior to the next meeting.
Yeah.
So I will organize that
Okay.
with Amanda and to do that.
And Karen.
Yep.
Yeah, with the.
Because it's all
everything.
about funding.
Yep.
I need to say.
So that's the next two are actioned.
Yeah.
Then we've got
Okay.
565.
So that one, we
This is-
just need to get an update from you
Yeah, so
around that.
Aidan put that in last meeting, I think, didn't he?
Yeah.
So we had any Do we need to keep asking or was
We could
carried?
just ask in the notes, you could just make a note that Aidan was looking into this.
Yeah.
And when he says he's done it,
Back to Aidan at the next meeting.
yeah, he's a,
Okay, and then 572.
Again, I think
that'll be covered in the.
So we've got that covered.
Can it just be combined? Like it's
Should be combined with the other one.
only-
they're all asking for the
They're
same thing.
asking for the same thing.
And yeah, it goes back to 176.
So these maybe will be cleared up too, once we've done the workshop, a lot of things hopefully will be ticked off and we can move on.
That real big one into the little one.
Okay,
Oh, not existing at all.
yeah.
Okay. Any other comment? That seems to be the end of our. Would you like me to close it or have you got, no?
No, let's keep going.
Well, I'm going to say we're going to close the meeting.
Okay. Correct.
Protest outside if you wish. Yeah, just a
Thanks very much.